Yo, what is going on, guys? Got a story for you here today titled Divorced Woman Returns to the Dating Market Only to Get Brutally Rejected by CHADS. Okay, this is the story of a lot of modern women who throw away their husbands or boyfriends. You know, they return to the dating market only to realize that the men, they just want to find themselves as well. Okay, you know, they're out there on their healing journeys, and they're actually not interested in committing to modern day women. They give them the runaround. They don't end up giving them relationships. And so what happens is so many of these divorced victims, right, who threw away their husbands, who threw away their boyfriends, they can't get relationships. And it just ends up being very damn funny. So guys, before we jump into this episode, don't forget to subscribe if you are new here, drop a like, and if you don't, guys, you will be stalked by single mothers, okay? I don't make the rules, all right? So make sure you subscribe on your way in, guys, and let's jump into this story right here. So this is told from the perspective of a 37-year-old man who briefly dated a 35-year-old divorcee trying to re-enter the dating world after a long marriage. So let's jump into it. He says, I'm a 37-year-old male. She was 35. We met through some mutual friends. She had recently finalized her divorce and was getting back out there. I was open to dating, though I was a bit hesitant when I learned she'd been married for over 12 years and hadn't dated at all since her early 20s. She looked decent for her age, carried herself with confidence. She dressed fashionably and had a decent career, but there was an unmistakable vibe, a mix of excitement, entitlement, and emotional whiplash. Right, so you have a woman who's returning to the dating market, and you know that when these women return to the dating market, they always think it's going to be a lot better than it actually is. Point in case, usually when these women leave their husbands or their boyfriends, they have a dude lined up, okay? So by the time they're going on these dates, they have already been rejected, typically, by one Chad who thought, who she thought she could get a relationship out of. Do you guys see what I'm saying here? So they leave the relationship, they fail instantly with that first Chad they had lined up, and then they end up going on dates like this. So that's where this woman is. He says, she told me that she told me straight up that she was quote unquote done settling and she was finally ready to find the right guy. That sounded fine until I asked what she meant by right guy. Apparently, it meant a guy who was over 6 feet tall, who is fit, who makes a lot of money, who owns his own place, has no children, and is willing to accept that she does have kids from her marriage. Oh, and she wanted to take things slow and not rush intimacy. Basically, she wanted a man with maximum value and no leverage. So let's break this down, what this woman wants, okay? Over 6 feet tall. Already you're throwing away a significant amount of the male population. As soon as you even list this first thing, guys, this just cuts out so many men, by the way. What's the average height of a man in America? 5'9"? I'm not 5'8". I'm not exactly sure. I know women on average are obviously a bit shorter than dudes, but the average guy is not 6 foot. Okay? Also has to be fit. A lot of guys don't hit the gym. Make 6 figures. A lot of men do not make 100,000, especially US dollars plus per year. Most men don't own their own house. And, they've got, if they do have a house, usually they have an incredibly large mortgage, which they're in debt to for a very long period of time. No children. So again, guys, she wants all of these things in one man. No children. And he has to accept that she does have kids, and she wants to withhold intimacy from this guy. So she wants some Giga Chad, and then she wants to withhold intimacy from him, and she has kids to another guy. Insane. Absolutely insane. He says she was dating like she was still 25. She showed me her Hinge Inbox once. It was loaded with blue check marks and dudes built like Greek statues. She laughed while scrolling and said, these guys won't commit, but damn, it's fun. I remember asking her, do you ever talk to the guys who do want to commit? Her answer was chilling. Not really. If I'm not instantly attracted, I don't see the point. He says there it was. She was chasing the top percentage of dudes, unaware that they weren't looking for someone with her history. I like this guy. He sounds pretty switched on. He knows what's happening. Okay, so notice what this woman is doing. She has the guys who are highly attractive, but she knows they won't commit, but she's having her fun. And she doesn't talk to the guys who do want to commit to her because if she's not attracted to them, she doesn't see the point. Okay, so this is a woman who's already hooked up with too many dudes, hooked up with too many attractive guys, that she doesn't want to, quote unquote, lower her physical standards whatsoever. It's hilarious. He says, after a couple of dates, we kept in touch, but I could tell she was chasing somebody else. 2 months later, she messaged me, "You were right, I should have taken your advice more seriously." Turns out one of the chads she was talking to ghosted her after 2 months of breadcrumbing. Another one used her for a hookup and never spoke to her again. She started to realize that she wasn't in her prime anymore, not in the dating market's eyes at least. The men she wanted were entertaining her, but never investing in her. You know what's funny, guys? Like, that's actually really funny about this story. This isn't how old is this woman? 35. This is not a problem that is specific to 35-year-old women, by the way. This happens to women all throughout their 20s as well, because what it comes down to is the type of men that they are selecting. Women at any age, realistically, can have a good relationship. They can have a stable man. They can have, you know, the dog and the kids and whatever, and the marriage and things like this, typically. But they don't want these things. They don't want them, or they do, but they just don't want them from the average man. Okay, so this woman would have had the exact same problems in her 20s as well, usually. You know, especially if she had access to dating applications back then, guys. Like, the women in their 20s are complaining about the exact same thing as the women in their 30s are complaining about. The lack of commitment from men, why are men so immature, all of these things. He says, she called me once and said, "I don't get it. When I was 24, men would do anything for me. Now I feel like I'm invisible unless I'm half unclothed in my profile photo. I didn't say what I was thinking, that the rules of the game change as you get older. Men age into value, women age out of the attention that they once had, unless they built real character and substance," which she hadn't. Again, this is really quite true. She had spent her marriage being a stay-at-home wife, checked out emotionally, and then divorcing her husband because she grew apart. But now she was learning that dating at 35 wasn't like dating at 25, especially not with a child and baggage. See, I think this woman still would have been a terrible decision to date or marry at 25. Point in case, guys, the dude that did end up marrying her got screwed over. You know, so there's that. I also do find it funny that he points out that, you know, unless the woman has built real substance, it's going to be hard for her to lock down one of these guys. And I do agree with that, guys. Like, a lot of these women, when their looks begin to fade, they have absolutely nothing to offer men whatsoever. And it's incredibly sad. You know, like, they literally have nothing. They're not pleasant to be around. And it's not like men's demands of women are sky high, guys. Like, it really isn't. She eventually hinted at giving us a try again, but I knew better. I wasn't her first choice. I was her backup plan, and I don't play second string, he says. This story is more common than people admit. A woman leaves a boring but stable man thinking that she can upgrade, only to find out that the upgrades aren't looking for long term, they are looking for fun. By the time she realizes she had a good thing, the good men have moved on to younger or more appreciative partners. I totally agree with this, man. I mean, a lot of guys will just straight up move country, man. They'll go to the Philippines, they'll go to Southeast Asia to actively avoid women like this. But guys, we're going to be leaving today's episode there. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and your comments. Make sure you guys take care of yourselves, and I'll be seeing you all in the next episode. Peace.